Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Safari at Safari Live. Safari Live, operating here in the northeast corner of magnificent South Africa. We're sitting on the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park, a spectacular wildlife wonderland. We're looking east there towards the Mozambican border, probably about 60 kilometers from where we're sitting now, which is just shy of 45 miles. And then it goes down into the coastal plain and to the Indian Ocean. We began there with some wildebeest, the voices of whom you have not heard. It is in fact me talking to you. My name is James Henry. On the camera today, David Eastaugh, sporting a very nice weathered blue hat and buff.
Why, thank you.
Yes, very nice. Well done, David. And on the other vehicle, we have Byron vereaux making his world debut today, filmed, abetted and guided by Brian. So we've got Byron on what I'm doing and Brian on the camera. I find it very confusing. Anyway, so please give him a warm welcome, and I know many of you have already done that. And then in the final control we have Kirsten McLennan-Smith talking in my ear, and I think it is Chelsea Bunn twiddling the knobs and tapping on the keys. Now, what I thought we'd do is just sit here for a little while and see what we can see, smell and hear. So let's do the hearing bit first. So what I'd really like you to do is sit where you are at home and close your eyes, turn your speakers up and just listen for the next 20 seconds. Right, so what you could probably hear there, I imagine, was the wind blowing and it rustling through the leaves. And if you have a very good set of speakers, you may have heard the odd leaf actually falling to the ground and the slight but very gentle and nice sound of the wildebeest hooves walking over the grass there. You'd have to have exceptional speakers to get that lot though. Then, in terms of the smell, take a deep breath in and pretend you're not sitting at home. And it's just a very fresh smell because there's this front coming in out of the southeast. That's the camera is facing to the east now. So just to the right-hand side of your screen, the wind is blowing from there. And that gentle wintry smell of sort of what I call bush potpourri, which is the drying of the leaf litter on the ground there. Then there are two things here that I'd like you to see, two of which they're both quite difficult. Now the first one, Davey, is just over there. Now if you are walking through the bush, you've got to be very careful. You've got to have what we call 360-degree awareness. There, behind a little bush, sitting chewing his cud, minding his own business, flapping his ears to get rid of the flies, is a rather large buffalo bull. Now the hunters will tell you the most dangerous animal in Africa. Well, if you tried to shoot me, I'd become quite dangerous too. If you're not trying to do them any harm, they're generally fairly docile, and that little fellow's, well, big fella, is just sitting there very peaceably, shielding himself from the wind by the trees and chewing his cud. And then there is another little bird, Dave, just in front of that wildebeest behind. You can see a bird on the ground there. That's it. Down a bit. There he is. That's it. A Senegal lapwing, everybody. So just in this little spot here, despite the fact that the weather's not great and we are therefore expecting probably a relatively quiet drive, but we'll see what happens. Just in this little section, 3 or 4 really nice species, lots to listen to, lots to smell, and the general sense of peacefulness of Africa has descended. Now, a great treat for you everybody, my friend Byron vereaux. Go and have a say hi to him.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Drive. Thank you very much for that introduction, James. It's great to be with all of you. Good to be back, actually. Not sure if any of you can remember, I was on Safari Live about a year ago. It's fantastic to be back. and I'm here for a week now, filling in for Brent, who's on leave, getting a bit of a break, a much needed break, I'm sure. So yes, great to be here with all of you. What a beautiful start with these two waterbuck bulls. Really incredible set of horns on this male. Really great to see them. And as he walks away from us, you can see that very prominent white ring around the rump. Very distinctive marking of the waterbuck. Just dropping some dung over there. No privacy in the bush. Waterbuck are very interesting antelope. And they are one of the antelope that are very reliant on water, and that's actually where they get the name from, waterbuck. And you'll often find them close to dams, waterholes or rivers, because they do need to drink quite regularly. And they are one of the antelope that can suffer from dehydration quite quickly if they don't get to water within a few days. There they're just moving through the thicket. If you look closely, as he's just moved off there, you could see that very shaggy coat. They do have one of the longer coats out of most of the antelope that we have in this area. It's just moved off a little bit there. You can just see those horns. And there they go. Great. It's amazing how they can blend into the thicket, especially now in winter. The bush is very dry at the moment, so that dark coat, that grey coloration really blends in nicely. So what a lovely start. It's always great starting something like this when you've got something to talk about. As I mentioned, it's thanks to James for the introduction. It's great to be back with all of you, and I'm going to be here for the next week. So hopefully we'll get some exciting sightings. I know you guys have been seeing a lot, and so I'm very excited. Hopefully share some of my knowledge and my stories with all of you. It's always great to have different stories from different guides from different areas. I think, why don't we carry on moving along? This is a nice open area up ahead. Some bit of a drainage line to the right. Maybe we get some activity, animals moving in and out of there. Let's keep going for a little bit. And please don't forget to send your questions in. #SafariLive on Twitter. Or otherwise you can email us at questions@wildearth.tv. And because it's my first drive, maybe you can be lenient and keep the questions fairly easy. No, I'm just kidding. I think, why don't we head back to James? I know he has got some buffalo, and let's see what else I can find for you so long.
Well, now everybody, that was Byron, and I suppose we might call this buffalo Byron the buffalo. One should always have alliteration when naming an animal, I feel. But on this buffalo, there are some oxpeckers, and they are not the standard version red bills. These chaps are the yellow-billed oxpeckers. Isn't that nice? Look at his nice meal there, David. Delicious. Fresh, raw buffalo flesh eaten straight off the living animal. That's the way to do it. Anyway, you can see how the oxpecker's sitting there, and you can see his yellow bill. Doesn't seem to be irritating the buffalo at all. And this sort of behavior, of course, has given rise to the thought that they are not, in fact, so helpful, these oxpeckers, that they, in fact, are rather more parasitic than they are symbiotic. In other words, they don't necessarily help Byron the buffalo there. Rather, they keep his wounds open, possibly opening him up to infection and that sort of thing. So while they do take ticks, which undoubtedly is a help, once a wound like that opens up, the oxpeckers maintain it by pecking away like that. much more uncommon than the red-billed oxpeckers. And Byron, of course, is not on his own out here. Oh no. Now, we had a lovely question from one of the kiddies today in the classroom that we did a school drive this morning for a school in Johannesburg. And, well, it was a question I posed them. I said, why would an impala be with a whole group of kudu? Well, the same might be asked of Byron here. Why would he be with all these wildebeest? And the answer, of course, is that it provides him with some security. And I suppose, you know, being his size, it also provides the wildebeest with a bit of security, because lions will think twice about going for a chap like this enormous buffalo bull. And it's interesting to see them together, because they can actually be confused. Some people do confuse wildebeest for buffalo, but when you see them together like this, there can be no confusion. And they are also, I mean, that's an adult there on the left-hand side of that little group of wildebeest, probably weighs at an outside maximum 250 kilograms. That is about a third of a really big buffalo bull. So, I mean, they are substantially smaller than these big buffalo. All lying down, all sort of chewing the cud, huddling together. It is a little cool. It's not cold, it's 22 degrees Celsius or so, which I think puts us at, oh dear, it's gone out of my mind, probably about 72 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not wrong. 71, I wasn't doing too badly there. And I was very remiss of me. I remember during my introduction, I forgot to tell you that you must please talk to us. I think Byron did tell you. # Safari Live or questions@wildearth.tv if you're on the email. That was extremely remiss of me. Like I said yesterday, please do not bother to send any postal messages. The South African Postal Service has been on strike for seemingly the last decade or so. Likewise, there's no telephone signal out here. So, that is the wildebeest. There is Byron the buffalo with his yellow-billed oxpecker friends. And I think we shall press on now and find many leopards. Do you want to see many leopards, David?
Sounds good, Joe.
Very good. On we go. Oh dear. Byron has not had a good start from a technical point of view. He is already black screen on Wendy. Oh well. Now we're heading down the western sort of side of Djuma. See if we can't pick up some tracks of Shadow maybe, and her little baby cubby, and if not her, maybe Karula. We looked for Karula's tracks this morning. She was supposed to have come north yesterday, and you know, out of Little Gowrie, which is to the south of us. And our favourite 11, at least 12-year-old female leopard, well, I couldn't find any tracks today. Brent didn't find any tracks, so I'm not sure that she did come across. But let's hope. Maybe she and the cubs have come back during the course of the day. Now, if you are a new viewer, we do tend to focus quite a lot of our time finding the big cats, simply because they're so entertaining. Well, most of the time, especially the leopards down here, because the leopards, at the moment, there are 2 or 3 females with cubs. And of course, nothing is cuter than a cat cub. And the lions are also beginning to have cubs around the place at the moment, quite by coincidence. They're not seasonal breeders at all. And so a female has given birth on Torchwood to the east of us. We think there's a female lion on, well, obviously a female lion, because males don't normally give birth. The female lion, I keep doing it. A lioness here at Djuma, we think, has given birth somewhere in a drainage line behind where the camp is. We haven't seen her, but we've seen her going in and out of there. She seems to be lactating. It's almost impossible to get in there with a vehicle. So with any luck, very soon, we'll be having lots of sightings of little lion cubs. And I know this is almost sacrilegious, but I think they're even cuter than leopard cubs. So we'll ease our way down to the south. It's been a blustery kind of a cool day. I'm hoping this front is going to go away tomorrow. The real joy of winter is that the fact that it's, well, we have those chilly mornings, which are actually quite pleasant. And then the middle of the day and around this time of the day, the weather is just sumptuously perfect. Great big deep blue winter skies and lovely heat. Hello Gerard, you're interested in whether there have been bushfires in this area lately. David, do you have a lighter on you?
I've got some matches.
Please will you give them to me? Gerard, I'm now going to attempt to light a bushfire. Are you ready, David? Are you afraid?
I'm very afraid.
Get the fire extinguisher out. I'm going to light a bushfire. It's cable tied in, but there it is. Now, Gerard, I think you can probably see where this is going. So observe me trying to light the bush on fire. Oh, there we go. We had a bit of a flame there. Come on. There we are. That's it.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I actually just had a quick glimpse of a lion track. I'm just off the vehicle, just having a look to see if I can gauge how fresh they are and which direction they go. I don't see them. They actually may have been from last night or early this morning. So just have a quick look around here. They did head in this direction. I understand you just lost James there for a second or two. This is always exciting. One of my favorite parts of working in the bush is tracking, trying to find the animals. It's a complete science. It's incredible to try and work out where these animals have gone and look for little signs in the bush. I don't seem to see any other tracks. There are some buffalo tracks around here too. So I'm assuming that I'm correct in saying that these tracks are probably from this morning or last night, early this morning or last night. Looks like they've just crossed over the road and headed in that direction. Let's carry on. We're approaching a little dam or water hole. So let's see, maybe there's a little bit of activity. Around there. Sorry, just one thing I did forget to do was introduce the trusty cameraman I have with me. And that's Brian this afternoon. So you've got the double B team with the thumb. It's great to have Brian. He's been around for a long time. So he's giving me a hand and letting me know exactly what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. It's so funny. I've been guiding for quite a long time, but this is a very different experience. And even though I've done it before, the nerves still kick in. It's an amazing feeling. It's actually very exciting. So if I do forget anything or get something slightly wrong, please don't hesitate to let me know. I know James was doing a fire demonstration with you. I really hope he hasn't managed to burn himself. Perhaps you should go and check on him quickly, just while we head to this water hole and see what he has got up to, and then we'll see you back again shortly.
Right, everyone, sorry about that. We're not sure what happened. I've beaten David with this burnt log here, and he seems to have fixed whatever the problem was. Now, Gerard, but the main point of that was just to show you that there's nothing to burn out here. But the point of this log here is to show you that bushfires do come through here every so often. We've had such a poor rainy season that there is no grass here. You can see there's absolutely no grass around, and that means that a bushfire could not actually come through here. The trees don't burn. They only burn if there's a substantial fuel load underneath them, and that fuel load is provided by thick grass, which in turn is provided by really wet, rainy season. We haven't had that at the moment, and so there's no chance of a bushfire coming through here at all. It will not, you cannot get these trees to sort of have a fire that jumps from tree to tree. So no chance of a bushfire here. You can see that they definitely have come through here in the past, and I think that fire, I think, was 2 summers ago, if I'm not mistaken. So normally the fire season is but any time sort of from August to the first rains, when the grass is still quite dry and long, and there's no moisture in it. The heat starts to build as we go towards the summertime. The wind starts to blow. We get these big, strong, hot northwesters, and also we get lightning strikes as the first storms of the summer start to build over the mountains. None of that is going to happen this year, simply because there's no grass for anything to burn. Right, on we go. Sorry about the black screen, not good. I'm not sure why it happened. We were sitting right dead still. Right, we'll just go back to me old pal Byron. He's at Biffle's Hook Dam.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope James didn't injure himself at all while attempting to start a fire. Have a look what we've got here. 3 beautiful impala, some young males. You can see their horns aren't fully developed yet, that have come down to drink at the dam. They are really beautiful, beautiful antelope. Even though they are quite abundant in this area, it's still really fantastic to see them. Doesn't matter what wildlife it is, it's always incredible, and especially coming down to drink. One of the reasons why I love it so much is because you notice their behavior and how alert these animals are when they come down to water holes. It's almost like they know that there could be potential danger around. You know, predators often during the heat of the day, especially in summer, will come down to drink in the mornings or in the afternoons, and may spend the day lying in the shade of the trees around water holes. So whenever animals come down to drink, whether it be antelope or buffalo or any of the large animals, they are always alert and always on the lookout for potential danger or potential predators that may be lurking in the bushes. They had a quick little drink and off they go. And then there's a beautiful picture of the hippo with a terrapin on the back. Have a look at that. Francie from Oregon wanted to know which antelope in this area has got the biggest horns. So Francie, I'm not sure if you had a look earlier at those waterbuck that we saw, but the waterbuck, those big males, have huge horns, very long horns that are quite curved actually. One of the other antelope that really do have a large set of horns are the kudu. The kudu, the males, have these beautiful spiral horns which spiral out, and it's always impressive to see a large kudu bull with a set of horns like that. And it's amazing how they've adapted to living in areas where the thickets are. Now the kudu do something quite interesting, and I've seen it many times. If they get startled and they're looking to move away from anything, whether it be a vehicle or potential danger, what they do is, all the males do is they tilt their head slightly back, and those horns go down down their back. So it just takes them out of the air, and they're able to move through the thicket without getting those big horns stuck in the branches, which makes it easy for them to dart through a thicket. It's amazing how animals adapt to their surroundings, especially with horns of that size. Let's have a look at this terrapin again on the back of that hippo. Just enjoying, I'm assuming he's trying to warm up. So it's been quite overcast today, but there has been glimpses of sunlight, And I think that's possibly why the terrapin is on the back of the hippo. It's, just a safe vantage point for that terrapin. It's not on the water's edge. It can slide off the back of that hippo into the water very quickly if anything does pose a threat. But I think that terrapin's quite safe up there. And also what the terrapin actually do is they will feed off ticks off of these animals. If that hippo did have any ticks around its back or rump, then that terrapin would be picking off those ticks. This looks like a mother and a calf hippo that's in the water hole there. And I understand these two are resident in this area, and you do see them quite often. I think also with this, generally in winter though, hippo like to bask on the banks to warm up in the sun during the day. But I think with this overcast weather we've had today, it's been a little bit cooler, and it's probably a bit warmer for them in the water. So they're trying to stay out of the cold wind, or the cool wind rather, and just stay in the comfort of the water. So Marianne in Arkansas would like to know a little bit more about my background. So thank you very much, Marianne, for asking. So I have been a guide for close on 8 years now. And I started my guiding career at a well-known game reserve called Londolozi, which I spent about 5 years there, just south of here. And James actually was my trainer when I started there. So we go way back, and it's actually great to be back and be able to guide with him. So guided there for about 5 years, and since then I have been doing private guiding. So I now guide guests throughout Southern Africa, which is fantastic. Get to see different places, get to go to different areas, and accompany guests on safaris all over, which is really great. And every now and then fill in where I can for Safari Live for one or two other lodges if they need a hand. As I said, this is a very different experience for me. No guests on the vehicle, millions of guests around the world. So it's a treat. It's a real privilege to be able to be out here and guide. See a few little birds that have come down to the water's edge to get a drink of water. Some starlings, there's a grey go-away bird. I'm not sure if Brian can get them. There we go. See the grey go-away bird going down to drink, and the starling to the right. It's amazing being back here and just listening to all these bird calls again. It's really fantastic, and one of the things I really enjoy about guiding. I think what we're going to do is we're going to move on from this waterhole now, see what else we can find. Why don't you go see what James has? I think he's got something quite interesting for you.
Obviously, we have something quite interesting for you, obviously. Thankfully, David and I found some zebras here. They're very pretty, especially juxtaposed with the golden colours of the winter behind. I'm just going to be quiet for the next I've completely lost my train of thought. I'm going to be quiet for the next little while because I'm going to tell you what I thought I heard once we've listened. Right, so everybody, shh. I can't hear it anymore. What I thought I heard was that noise that little leopard cubs make when they talk to each other. That kind of a noise that they make. But I haven't heard it again. It's unlikely the zebra would be around, but the zebra would be a danger to leopard cubs. because they will not tolerate predators, and if they can get one up on them, they absolutely will. Now I can hear what I was hearing. It was some helmet shrikes calling in the distance, and now that we've got a bit closer to them, I can hear. So that's a youngster, and probably its mother not too far just behind there, and then off to the left hand side we've got a whole lot more of them, just right here actually, and this will be one sort of kinship group, a kinship group led by a stallion and his wives, and the oldest female definitely taking on a kind of matriarchal role. Let me just slowly ease forward. I think they're such magnificent creatures, these, I really do. They're not the nicest, friendliness-wise, but they are absolutely beautiful. There is still no satisfactory explanation for their colour. They've got their little winter coats are. Look how fluffy that one is. It's definitely got a winter coat. In the same way that horses out here get winter coats, so do the zebras. William, you want to know how it is that their stripes help them against predators. Well, we're not entirely sure, to be honest, but the theory goes that because their main predators are colorblind, what happens is that they're unable to discern the outline of the zebra, especially when it's moving. So if it's moving through this kind of woodland or very long grass in low light, when their predators are likely to be hunting, then apparently it's quite difficult to pick a direction that the animal's moving, and it's also quite difficult to figure out exactly where the animal starts and where it doesn't, especially if it's in a group of other zebras. So that's basically why they think that stripes help with predators. But there are various fangled theories about how they could also be for cooling, and that a convection current is set up between the black and the white. I don't buy that. I think it's nonsense, because it doesn't make any sense to me as to why they would be the only animal with stripes for cooling. The stripes, for example, on a nyala or on this more subtle stripes on a wildebeest are almost certainly for anti-predator things. So I really think that that's why these zebras have got their stripes the way they do. I'm pretty sure that it's an anti-predator device, and a fairly successful one. Very few zebra I've seen get eaten out here. Probably a few more in East Africa, where it's a bit more open. They're not in the woodland quite as much as they are here. They're more in the grassland areas. But they are so like horses, these Burchell zebras. They live in the same herd structure, the stallion and his mares. They're not very good for riding, apparently. Their backs are not great for bearing load, and they also have a disturbing propensity to bite you if you try and get too close to them. Hurt more zoo workers in the world than tigers, which I think is quite something. It wasn't too far from here that we saw a stallion, or a group of stallions without a herd, kill a young foal that had been excluded from its herd for whatever reason that was, or it had lost its herd, and it was making a sort of bleating sound that would have eventually attracted predators, and the stallions wanted nothing to do with it, and they destroyed it. It was bleating away. It was the most heart-rending thing to see. Anyway, as we go also towards the dry season, these zebra are in a fairly advantageous state, in that because they are what we call hindgut fermenters, so they don't ruminate like the buffalo and all the other antelope. They don't have to re-chew their food, and that means as the food quality drops, they are able simply to process more food. So many, like a ruminant, has to stop eating at some stage because it has to lie down, re-chew its food, swallow it again, and then only can it continue eating. A zebra and an elephant and a hippopotamus and a warthog, they're not the same. They don't have to re-chew their food, so they don't have digestion that's as efficient. But once the food quality drops to the quality that it is now, you'll find that being a non-ruminant like the zebra is probably a more efficient strategy. And you can see if you look at them compared with the condition of the buffalo, which are now starting to look a little bit hippie. Their hips are sticking out. The zebra look in fine form. Alrighty, that's the zebras. Let's carry on. We're going to go around the corner to see if we can't spot, well, something at the dam down there. Then we'll continue along just to check if Karula's tracks haven't come across. If they haven't, I think we might well head towards Arathusa and see what's there. I know a leopard was seen there this morning. I know Brent tried to get to it, but I'm not sure what happened. Oh, well, that's quite nice. Byron's got some tracks of a leopard at Buffelshoek Dam. I suspect, given the direction of the male leopard tracks that Brent was following this morning, that those could well be Sindile. So that would be nice. Acadia, I wish I could, but I'm afraid I can't. You say, can I give you some more information about Junior, our old pal from the Nkuhuma Pride? He must be pushing 4 by now, I would have thought. And his 3-year-old companion, seemingly from the Mangan Pride or the Salala Breakaway Pride. That's all I know. He's hooked up with that Mangan male. They formed a little coalition, which I think is rather sweet. Both of them don't have very good manes yet. They look like sort of 2 teenagers skulking about the place. And, yeah, let's see what happens. I don't know. I think the Mangan male, if I'm not mistaken, is probably the offspring of one of the Majingalan males, who, of course, is the coalition of 4 dominant in the west of the Sabi Sand. And Junior, we know, is most likely the offspring of one of the Matimbas. So they will be almost unrelated, which is great for the genetics of whatever pride they take over. And let's see what happens. I suspect quite strongly their best bet is going to be to wait out the fate of the Majingalan coalition, because they are old now, although they do seem to be very dominant still. So I mean, if those 2 guys can hang around here for a while, maybe hook up with the rest of those, I think there were 3 Mangan sub-adult males, and if they can hook up with the 3 of them, they'll have a real chance in the Western Sabi Sand. Otherwise, they're going to have to press on and go somewhere else. I don't think the Birminghams are going anywhere anytime soon. They've got a lot of growing to do. They're already completely dominant over this area, and they're an impressive force, despite the fact that they're not the biggest lions in the world. I mean, they will get bigger. But Junior, with any luck, carries the genetics of Big, the hairy-bellied Matimba male, and he is a massive, highly impressive lion. And hopefully Junior will carry those genes, and it'll be very nice to see him and the Mangan Pride male forming a coalition and taking over someday, but not in this area. We don't want them in this area, because then there will be, almost unquestionably, there'll be a whole lot of inbreeding that goes on. So let's ease our way onto the wall here. Here we are, Treehouse Dam. Oh, there's an impala, David. Can you believe it? There. Impala male, and a whole lot of female impalas to the right of him, but we'll just watch him for now while I scan off into the dam and just see if I can't spot anything spotted. unfortunately I cannot. Very graceful are the impala, and of course highly water dependent, so they will lurk around the water holes like this, hoping to try and get some water. And believe it or not, there is actually water in this dam. Let's just have a look at the females there. I'm going to go a little bit forward. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm talking on the dam. Beautiful. Had it up for a second. Yes, their best bet. Now there are some birds alarm calling. I can hear them. I can hear them going swizzle, swizzle, swizzle down over there. Let's just go and have a look quick. I do want to keep going that way, but let's just go and have a look down there. There is actually some water in this dam. I know it looks very dry, but the elephants have dug some holes and there's water flowing underneath the ground here. And the elephants have very cleverly found it. They can feel it in their feet, and then they dig a hole and they find themselves something to eat. There's just some swizzling of birds here, which I think is worth investigating. Now, Reese, a very nice question from you, one to which I have tried to find an answer for many years. There are the birds. They're in that tree there, Dave. You can just see them in that dead tree shouting in the top there. What are they shouting at? Let's just have a look-see. They are white-crested helmet shrike. They might just be shouting at each other. Reese, I'll get back to your question now, because it's a good one. Now, you say, in all the areas that we drive, are we more likely to find animals in some areas than others? On a very, very general level, yes, I suppose, maybe, Reese. But largely, it is very random. I think trying to predict where animals are going to be, I mean, we know where, for example, Karula's territory is. We know where Shadow's territory is. And so we'll go into those areas and then we might be lucky to find those leopards. But in terms of where other things are, you know, a hot day you might be able to predict that buffalo would be at the water, or that elephants at some stage would come down to the water. But no, I wouldn't say that there are any areas here that are where it becomes easy to predict where animals are going to be. I don't know what they're shouting at, but they're impala so close that I don't think it can be a terrestrial predator. It might be a snake or something like that. Oh, no, hang on, they're alarm calling. There's something going on here. Well, there was one alarm call. The rest, oh, I've seen something. Those birds are still going crazy. Something is going on here. Hey, something's going on. Where are they looking? They're not looking nowhere near where the birds are looking. They've smelt something. two are looking... Oh, no, now they're just fighting. They're uneasy. Something is putting them ill at ease. This is fascinating. I don't know what's going on. Let's sit here. It's worth us sitting here. Now the other one's alarming at the other end there. And it's looking off into the distance. But there are a whole lot that are not alarm calling. It might just be that they're cross with each other. This is deeply frustrating. I need to work on my impala language skills. Now looking this way. That's an alarm call. I'm so deeply confused now. There's half of them are just standing there eating. Just go a little bit forward. Now, Jack, you say maybe it's a leopard or even a honey badger. Absolutely, maybe it is. And that's what I think that those birds were definitely alarm calling. Now they're all looking up to the top there. You know what, I think it's going to be worth having a little drive around there. Let's just stick our heads in here. Frightened impala, they're looking over in this direction. This is where those birds were shouting from. Those two still look like they want to have a fight with each other. What can you see, David?
Warthog just up ahead.
Warthog running away. Smell elephant here. You can also hear the bird's alarm calling off to that side. And they're looking down there now, the impala. Gosh, I don't know what's going on. I think we need to go out onto the road and back off towards the east there. Let's see if we don't pick something up there. These are all male impala though. This is so frustrating. I don't know what's going on. Anyway. Let's go back out onto the road. We'll do a quick turn. While I do that, while I investigate, let's go and get an update from Byron on his leopard tracks. Hopefully I'll have a decent answer for you when you get back.
Well, that's very exciting. So James has got alarm calls and he's going to go and investigate further. Hopefully he comes up with something. That's always a positive thing, having antelope alarm calling or birds alarm calling. Most of the time there is a chance that there's something around, a predator most likely. So Brian and I have just been driving around. We spent a bit of time at the dam, at Buffelshoek Dam. We did have some lion tracks around there that we followed a little bit, but I think those were from this morning. I know Brent and James had lions calling early this morning, and that's possibly the pride, because I think it came from this area. So I think that may have been the pride that they heard early this morning. It's a lovely, cool afternoon. I really enjoy driving in weather like this, because you can tend to go out a little bit earlier on game drive, and you can spend more time, especially in the mornings, out on longer drives. And generally, the animals are a little bit more active in weather like this when it's a bit cooler. James has just asked a question about any interesting animals that we don't see in the Sabi Sands area. James, good question. I'm trying to think now in other areas that I've been recently. So I've seen... I'm trying to think. So we've got... animals like aardvark and pangolin, which you do get in this area though, but they are not seen very often. They're very, very shy nocturnal animals. There are other parts of South Africa and Southern Africa that you tend to see them a little more frequently, especially dry areas. In the Kalahari, for example, you tend to see a lot more aardvark and pangolin activity. We also get animals like a striped polecat, which actually looks almost like a skunk. It isn't a skunk, but it does also have a chemical defense like a skunk. It does spray a chemical defense, which does smell very pungent. The distribution says they do occur in this area too, but I've never seen in this area. I've only seen in the Kalahari. Trying to think what else. There are quite a number of antelope species that you'd get in other areas. They perhaps are suited better for drier, more arid conditions as opposed to here. Animals like the steenbok, or otherwise known as the oryx. Very, very beautiful antelope with long horns, long straight horns. You get a lot of them in the desert. What else? Springbok, which we don't get in this area, is our national animal for South Africa. Beautiful, dainty gazelle, the only gazelle we get in South Africa, and they also prefer generally the drier, more arid conditions. So I hope that answers a bit of your question, James. It's generally antelope species, and that I would say where there's a bit more of a distribution difference. So Valeria, good afternoon. Thank you for your question. Valeria would like to know one of my favorite or interesting bush stories. This is always interesting. Let me think. Shucks. Interesting bush story. So funny, I think when you don't think about it, a lot of them come to mind, and then when you do think about one specific story, they seem to evade you. One of my favorite stories, though, is a story about one of my favorite animals, which is a honey badger. Now, a honey badger is incredibly tough and tenacious. It's a fantastic animal. I don't think it's afraid of anything. The few honey badgers that I've seen in the wild, they just have such character, and it's almost like they don't care. Wherever they want to go, they will go and do whatever they like. One afternoon, we were following a pack of wild dogs And wild dogs are always exciting animals to follow. They're always doing something, specifically in the morning and the afternoon, and generally always on the hunt. And this afternoon, a pack of 6 wild dog were off on a hunt, and they were running. What they do is they run fairly quickly, and they generally just flush wildlife. Whatever they can find or see, they will try and hunt, and they work together as a pack. So this particular afternoon, a pack of wild dogs ran through a clearing and managed to flush 2 honey badgers, which were hiding in a thicket. And these 2 honey badgers ran out, and I thought, oh, this is going to be fantastic. And the honey badgers ran off, and the wild dogs were chasing them. And I thought, oh, if they catch one of these honey badgers, it's going to be a very interesting story. And about 2 minutes into the chase, one of the honey badgers decided he had had enough of this, turned around, and, ooh, have a look over there. See if Brian can get that for you. Fantastic. Some elephants. That is great. Brian and I were actually saying we would love to see elephant this afternoon. It's one of my favorite. Oh, and there's a youngster. Look at the baby. I think, why don't we sit tight here for a while and see if they look like they are moving closer. Can hear a female communicating there. Very deep, low frequency grumble, which is a vocalization. And that's just for them to communicate with each other. I'm just going to reverse for a second, just because I think we might get a nice view of that young one. Beautiful female with her calf behind her. Let's see, she seems quite relaxed. She opened her ears a little bit, but I don't think she's too worried about us. That's just a little warning. Look at this young one. This is so special. Oops, she's just turning again. She's not showing any sign of aggression at all. This female is purely watching us. She just wants to make sure we're no threat to her calf. And often, and most of the time, I find with elephant, if you sit still and allow them to approach you, they become quite relaxed and comfortable with you being around. And then they carry on with their business. As you can see, this female is breaking off some branches from that little bush with her trunk. And let's just see how she feeds on it. It's a nice close-up there. She might be looking for leaves, but earlier... Oh, yes. See, she's missing the tip of her trunk there. Do you see that? That's very interesting. I'm not too sure what could have caused that. I really don't know what that could be from. But it doesn't seem like it has affected her at all. She's still able to feed. She's looking after this calf very nicely. Calf looks healthy. Look at that. It's incredible. These youngsters, look, trying to use its trunk there, it takes them about 2 years to really work out how to use that trunk properly. So you'll see they'll fool around a little bit, they'll swing it around, they'll try and feed, try and copy the mother and learn from the female. I understand that this herd has been seen around Djuma a number of times, and that you have seen this female and her calf before. This female is probably quite easily recognized because of that broken tusk, that left tusk that is slightly broken, and then obviously the trunk. The missing tip. I'm not sure if you all heard that, but there was again that low frequency grumble and that vocalization to communicate with the other elephant, which I can still hear. We cannot see them now, but I can hear them in the bushes. Hopefully they come through in this direction too. It's a bit of sun coming out now. Look at that. Oh, perfect. This is incredible. Look at that little one. So Elaine has an interesting question. As the elephant approached us, she scraped her foot on the ground. Now, Elaine would like to know why the elephant scraped its foot on the ground. Elaine, there are a few reasons, or possible reasons. The one is often elephant will scrape the ground with their foot to try and loosen some sand, and they pick up the sand and they throw it on their back, and it helps to cool them down, or get rid of some of the flies and ticks that might be sitting on them. The other reason is often what they do is they kick the roots of little branches or shoots to try and loosen it, and they'll pick that up with their trunk and they'll feed on it. I think what she did there in that particular situation was when elephant approach a vehicle or something that they are not sure of, what they do is something called mock feeding. So it appears as if they are feeding. They'll wrap their trunk around something, or they'll do something that looks like normal behavior. Here comes another one, Brian, if you want to look to our right, another young one. And what the female does is, or what elephant often do is mock feeding, and what they're doing is just assessing the situation. Are we a threat? Are we a danger? She just wants to make sure, especially with the calf close by. As soon as she became comfortable with us again, she started to move on. And I think that behavior right there was purely for that reason. That calf, I think, was just as it passed out. It is lying down and completely fast asleep, it looks like. Now, animals actually don't sleep like we do. They don't go into a state of sleep where they're not aware of what's around them. They will always know and pick up on sounds and smells of anything around them, because they have to be very careful of predators. With the female and the other elephant around, that calf is very comfortable. So I think that's why it's decided to lie down and rest. And elephant do lie down and rest. Not for long periods of time. There we go. Calf's up again. You see that? But if it gets a chance, especially at that young age, it will try and rest a little bit. Wasn't that amazing? Look at the mouth. This is fantastic. There again, some communication from the elephant. Oh, and the sun is perfect right now for this sighting, warming us up a little bit. We're in a little bit of a drainage line, so we're a little sheltered from the wind that we had earlier, or the little breeze, the cool breeze. So it's actually fantastic right now. Amazing conditions. Watch that young one pulling that branch through its mouth. Often what elephant like to do is they'll take a branch, put it in the mouth, and they roll it through their teeth. And what that does is it breaks the bark off of the branch, which is something that they really enjoy feeding on. the bark contains all the nutrients and the good stuff that they want. So they'll strip the bark off, feed on that, and then often drop the stick or the branch that's left behind. This is very, very special. These elephants are so relaxed with us being right up close to them. There we go. Have a look, see if you can see it rolling, that branch. Trying to chew off that bark, the juicy bark. Again, because it's a young one, it's probably still learning. It's watched its mom a few times. Now it's trying to work it out for itself. But an elephant this age will still be suckling from its mom. And they can suckle for quite a few years. The youngsters, I've seen elephant 5, 6 years still trying their luck and trying to suckle from the females, but that's usually when the female says, no, enough's enough, you need to move on and just eat food now and drink water like the rest of us. They obviously try to get all the nutrients they can from the female. Oh, did you hear that? Very, very loud vocalization from that elephant. And I think the reason being is I did hear some elephant coming through the thicket there. I can see some movement now. I think that was the one that communicated first, and this female answered. Just off to the right of the embankment, there you can see a larger elephant coming through there. Jack wanted to know, and an interesting question, Jack, because we hear this throughout our lifetime about elephants and their memory. And Jack wanted to know, is it true that an elephant never forgets? Well, Jack, to be honest, I don't know. I mean, how do we measure that, and how can we be certain? In my experience, and with what I've seen from elephants and their behavior, I think they've got incredible memories. I've seen elephants coming to the same area year after year, looking for specific food at certain times of the year. Whether it be in dry season, they know where the good vegetation is, they know where the remaining water is. You hear, and I have seen documentaries of elephant in very dry, arid areas that will migrate. And what they do is they move around from one area to the next, knowing where the food will remain longer because of a stronger water supply. So there's definitely a strong memory for an elephant, and I'm sure they don't forget. JJ wanted to know if these elephants will be part of a bigger herd. JJ, I think possibly. And often what happens is you may get herds splitting up at certain times of the year. Maybe there's not enough food around or water, so the herds might split and move off into different areas looking for food and water. I don't think we've seen the whole herd. There are more coming. I can hear them. Just haven't seen them yet. And as I say that, I can see another 2 moving through there. So, JJ, I'm almost certain there are quite a few other elephant around here. But elephant herds, range from 3 up to 40, 50, 80 elephant in certain areas. All depends even more. Again, the variables of the food, the water, all have to be taken into account. And but like I said, I don't think we've seen all of them. There's at least 3, 4, 5, 6, There's at least 6 or 7 elephant that I've seen around in this area already, and possibly some more to the back. But generally herds are the females, a lot of the younger elephant. You may have younger bulls staying with the herd, but generally they do get pushed out. The females, once the bulls come into that stage where they're almost ready to mate, the females tend to push them out. And those young males then often will meet up with older dominant bulls. And those bulls will teach them how to be successful, how to find females, and then how to mate with the females. So those young bulls will follow those dominant males for quite some time until they are ready to be dominant and challenge for dominance over a group of females. But with the younger elephant, you'll have females and males all within the herd. But generally, with the larger elephant in a herd, it's mostly the females. And the males will then meet up with them every so often, especially if they can smell that the females are in estrus and ready to mate. And just the female and the calf have moved a little bit away from us. But what an incredible sight. How fantastic was that? As I mentioned, one of my favorite animals. To be able to get close to them, spend time, listen to them, watching them feed, it is just amazing. As I said, I think the female and the calf have just moved off a little bit away from us into the thicket. And those others are still hidden within the thicket beyond us. I think, why don't we go and see what James is up to and get an update from him. Hopefully he has got some more exciting news with those impala alarm calls that he had earlier.
Now, we're off-road, everybody, because there were monkeys shouting. We've come to a totally different area from where we were. We gave up where we were before. The monkeys looking from a tree right down to where we are now. There were birds alarm calling here, but there are very chilled out antelope. A nyala just close by. And the monkeys seem to be calming down, which indicates that whatever it is that they've seen is kind of moving away. All gone to ground. This is where they said Karula was last sort of heading towards. So we're checking in the tops of the trees. It's just we'll drive around. We're not going to sort of search around off-road too much, but the monkeys were looking straight down to where we are now. Always a good idea to look on top of the termite mounds into the trees. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go forward around here. Could easily be lurking in the drainage system here. You may have killed something and put it in a tree. Look down here. All along the drainage system. Easily just be wandering off down there. I'm trying to show you where the monkeys are. I'm so glad that young half turns around to this into this area here. Let's just have out now. We'll do more head up. Hide it. I'll just show you where this means anything.
So it doesn't sound like James has had any luck yet, but more and more animals are alarm calling and giving him something to look around for. Let's hope. I really do think he is onto something there. We are still with this herd of elephant, which it seems like quite a few elephant around this area. I've seen at least 12 now, so there's definitely a large herd moving through this area. JJ did ask about the elephant being part of a larger herd, and I think this answers the question nicely. So there definitely are quite a few elephant hidden through the thicket that we've just passed through. Another female, adult female with these two younger ones, and that young one feeding close to that female. Good afternoon, Debbie from Vancouver. And Debbie would like to know what happens when two completely separate elephant herds meet up. Good question, Debbie. I think it does depend on the time of the year. Elephants are not necessarily very territorial. They do move wherever they like, and especially depending on the time of year where the food and water is. I have seen a number of elephant herds that I think are unrelated. Again, I'm not entirely sure if they were or if they weren't, but I have seen herds coming from different directions, different areas, meet up and feed in the same area, go and drink water from the same water hole, and they are not phased about each other at all. The only time I really see elephant a little bit nervous and agitated with other elephant joining is when a big dominant male comes into a herd. And that male just causes a bit of unrest. He is generally there purely to look for females to mate with. So it does cause a bit of stress amongst the herd, and causes the females to become a bit restless and a bit nervous. Generally speaking, with another herd just moving into the same area, or moving around or joining another herd, I've found, in my experience, from what I've seen, there's no issue with them doing that. Thank you for that question. It's a very good, very interesting question. I could watch these elephant for hours. Marianne from Arkansas has got quite a funny question for us, and has asked, have we, or has anybody from South Africa tried elephant milk? I don't know, Brian, do you know of anybody that has tried anything?
No, I don't think anyone's tried elephant milk.
I think it would be very difficult to get elephant milk, and I don't think, I certainly do not know of anybody that has tried elephant milk. Perhaps we can ask James to try and get some for us tomorrow. Have a look how they are devouring those leaves. Really enjoying the bit of greenery that they can get from these combretum trees or bush willow trees that are around. Oh, and again, the sun has come out beautifully for us now in these last few hours of the afternoon, and it's just warmed everything up a little bit and made it a fantastic afternoon. incredible to watch how these trunks work. Holding these tiny leaves and grabbing and stripping the leaves off the branches and putting it in their mouth, constantly feeding. Elephant need to feed. I mean, you can imagine being herbivores and getting to that size. They need a lot of fuel. They need a lot of good food to be able to keep their large bodies going. So they do feed for most of the day. Oh, that youngster. Heidi has asked a question related to that young calf we saw earlier that was lying down resting or went to sleep for a short while. Heidi would like to know how long these youngsters can actually sleep during the day. Heidi, again, I don't think there's a direct answer to that. From what I've seen, and as I mentioned earlier, elephants don't necessarily sleep as much as, or sleep like we do, or very much at all. They do generally keep moving throughout the day. I have heard that elephant can rest up to 1 or 2 hours a day. Again, the resting and the sleep, I think, is very different. It's not a complete sleep, that they are not aware what's going on around them. They have to always be aware. All animals do. So it is a state of rest. With the youngsters, if the females are kind of not moving around too much, they might give the young ones between an hour and 3 hours, perhaps, to have a little lay down. But it is probably staggered throughout the day. So I wouldn't say on one particular stop. Notice that behavior from that middle elephant. As that large female approached, it gave a low frequency vocalization, and that other one turned and flared its ears slightly. That's a little bit of a warning sign, but I think what happened was it was just a little bit nervous of that adult female coming closer. Maybe the female said, I think I'd like to feed on this tree now for a little bit, if you could move on. And that youngster's still staying close. There we go, have a look. Looks like it's trying to suckle there. Look at that. And Julia from Houston has just asked if elephant react to caterpillars or perhaps any other insects that might be on the leaves or the trees that they are feeding on. I don't think they do at all. The other thing is, elephants' digestive system isn't very efficient. They only absorb about 20 to 30% of the food that they actually eat, the nutrients from the food that they eat. So a lot of it passes through the elephant's digestive system quite quickly. But have a look at that young one suckling. There we go. That one's much older than the young one we saw earlier, and it is still suckling. I would guess that young one to be about 3 years old, roughly. Again, it's always very tricky to estimate the age of animals, but I do think that's about 3 years, maybe close to 4 years old, somewhere around there. But you can see it perfectly. Look at that. See how it curls the trunk back, allowing the mouth to suckle from the teats, which are situated, as you can see, under the front legs of the elephant. This is really fantastic. Look at that. While we are sitting here, bird calls are still going on around us. I can hear a very interesting bird calling in the distance. Just behind that back elephant, the sound is coming from that direction. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it. But it's a deep sound. It sounds a little bit like a woo, 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 woo. I think some of you might be thinking that is a southern ground hornbill. I know James was trying to impersonate that call this morning, and Brian does a great impression of the southern ground hornbill, but it is not. It is actually a giant eagle owl, or vereaux eagle owl, and it's got a very deep call. I can hear one calling now, and they do often call late afternoon or early mornings. They'll sit in a tree, in a very dense big tree, right up at the top calling. And I think just now, shortly, we may see if we can try and find that. But these elephants are out in the open. It's just too good to leave. It's fantastic. And again, just have a look at how relaxed they are with us. Michelle from Denver has asked a question about the young elephant or the baby elephant. She would like to know if they are born with teeth. So, Michelle, when these youngsters are born, I do not think they have teeth. They may have the start of... Oh, have a look at this young one. Look at that, throwing the branch. Oh. Flapping the ears, thrashing the trunk around. It's a little sign of aggression. The young elephant often try and show that they're a little bit more dominant, and they test us. They want to see if they can chase us away. They've got a lot of attitude. It's fantastic. And again, it's all a learning process for the elephant. That's why they're doing it. They want to see how far can we go, what is this thing that's around us. And I think the fact that the females have been so comfortable, the youngsters are comfortable, so that's why they're possibly just trying their luck to chase us off. Getting back to Michelle's question about the youngsters with their teeth, I think when they are born, I don't think they have teeth. I think it develops quite quickly a few years into their life. So within the first year, teeth definitely start to form and develop. The tusks will start showing from about 4 to 5 years, I've noticed. They start showing from about that age onwards. You can see little white tips coming through, but but compared to the molars or the premolars inside the elephant's mouth, those will develop a lot sooner. And it's incredible how these large animals can disappear into a thicket quite easily, become almost invisible. It's been fantastic that they've allowed us to spend so much time with them going around their business, feeding, completely relaxed and happy with us being here. Wasn't that great? It really, really was a fantastic sighting. Brian has been very excited. He said he was wanting elephant all afternoon, so I'm glad we got to see them. So did I. It's really awesome to spend time with them. I think what I'm going to do is just turn around and see if I can get you a little bit closer to that vereaux eagle owl. Just see if we can find him. I think while I go have a look there quickly, why don't you head back to James, see if he's got an update on all those alarm calls that he had earlier. Maybe he's got a bit of luck for us.
Alas, there is no update on the alarm calls unless those monkeys had sight of this crested francolin and were sore afraid, and so began yelling at each other. I don't think that's what the problem was. I had a long walk through the area where we were. I came up with absolutely nothing. That's not to say there's nothing there. I just didn't find it. Anyway, we're going to do one loop down through here, and then, as I've been promising all day, we're going to go to Arathusa and see what's going on there. The more and more I say that, the further and further towards the east of Djuma we go. Anyway, at least we've had some elephants to look at. That's marvellous. Anyway, crested francolins shouldn't be spurned. They are beautiful in the same way that impala shouldn't be spurned. They too are beautiful. Leopards are more beautiful though, don't you think, Dave? Yes. Hello, Roger in Tampa. A very good question from you. You say, would a python startle the animals? Yeah, no, Roger, it would definitely, especially a monkey. But monkeys, if they spot a python, well, they actually have different calls for pythons and for aerial or bird predators and for things like leopards, which are terrestrial predators. I can't tell the difference between the two, and I challenge anybody who says that they can. But these guys were sitting in the tree and looking down at the ground. Yeah, it could have been a python. It's possible. And certainly given the response of the nyala to it, yeah, it's certainly possible. I just had the idea of Karula simply because she did come into this, well, in theory she came into this area last night. But I've seen no tracks of her, so yeah. Shall we go with python? Then I don't feel quite so incompetent. Okay, Roger, yes, it was definitely a python. Absolutely, that's what the monkeys were shouting at. Completely, very sure it was a python. Thank you, Roger. You offered me a way out there. So we'll just drive to the top of this road and turn around and go down Leadwood Road one last time, on the off chance that the python pitches up on the road. It'd be good to see a python. I've yet to see a python on Safari Live. They are wonderful, wonderful creatures. We had a python, we borrowed one from the Wildlife College. That's what we, and for our TV show. Whoops. That's one of those things that if you're not really in control of your emotions, can really cause you to say a nasty, nasty word. But because I'm so in control of my emotions, I won't say any nasty words. So the python we had from the Wildlife College was sitting in a bottle, sort of stewing, if you like, in formaldehyde. Incredible creature. They are so very beautiful. So we'll try and find a live one at some stage. Sunny day, if it gets quite sunny during the winter, it's always possible that you might see one. And you fell in another hole there. It's unbelievable. I'm struck immediately driving through here. You've been with the elephants with Byron, and if you look around us here, the elephants have left a trail of destruction. Now, to our naked eye, and even if you don't have a naked eye, it looks like that can't be good, can't be a good thing. But it is. It's a perfectly normal thing, but I am struck by how much the strychnos bushes, which are these, let me find you a strychnos bush. Obviously, as soon as I want to find you a strychnos bush, it becomes utterly impossible. I will find one. But they form these big, thick stands, mono-specific stands of strychnos, and they're starting to be thinned out by the elephants. And that's great, because they do seem to be encroaching on many areas, and so I think that's rather wonderful. And that's exactly why a drought like this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing that there are lots of elephants in the area at the moment. Byron is somewhere up there behind us. There's a steenbok, just to show you that I haven't completely forgotten how to find any form of animal. Don't run away, steenbok. If you run away, I shall shout at you. There it is. A lady steenbok. Very elegant. It's very pretty. See? She's done her makeup on her eyes. It's a bit gothic, don't you think, Dave?
I like it, James.
You like the dark eyes?
Yeah.
You're a bit gothic yourself there, really. Very nice. She's actually very chilled out. Oh, she seems to be lactating too. I don't know if you caught a glimpse there of her little udders, and I'm pretty sure there's a little one that will be lurking around here somewhere. But they are extremely well hid. So that little steenbok is, what's she licking there? What's she eating? That little steenbok only weighs about, what, 12 kilograms or so? So about, what's that, just over 20 pounds. I'm just going to check the mass exactly. So the baby will be tiny. The baby will probably weigh sort of 3 kilograms when it's born. minute little thing. Yeah, up to 16 kilos. I don't think quite as big as that for this one. And often here, a little pair dominates this area, so they occur little territorial pairs. It's interesting. Maybe just keep an eye out as we drive past. There might be a very, very tiny one just lying under some thick bush. Because that's what they'll do. They will lie dead stone still and become almost invisible. Oh, that's a stunning shot of a steenbok. If I wasn't the world's slowest photographer, I'd think about taking a photograph. Yep, no good. Got it. Camera tangled up in all sorts of other equipment. Susie, thank you. You say they're your favourite, these little steenbok. That's marvellous. I think they're rather good too. We had a lovely question today about why it is that some antelope run away and some do not. I'm going to get back to you now. Byron, who's on his world debut, is finding all the things, and he's got a really interesting bird to show you.
Well, look what we have managed to find. Remember I mentioned that I could hear a very deep sound coming from the thicket behind us. Brian and I have been searching for quite a while, and we have found the vereaux eagle owl, also used to be known as the giant eagle owl. Fantastic. It is so wonderful to be able to see a large owl like this. This is the largest owl in the area. Let's see if they call again for us. This is such a wonderful sighting. Look at those pink eyelids. Have a look at that. Beautiful, beautiful pink eyelids. Look at those tufts of feathers on top of its head. Almost appear as if they have ears. Those are just feathers. There was another one calling. There were, I think this is possibly a pair, and they've been calling to each other. There was another one further down, but we managed to spot this one right here. It's in quite a thick area. I don't know, Brian, would you like to see if you can zoom out a little bit and just show everybody how well hidden this owl is? It's got a perfect spot right up in the canopy of that tree. Look at that. James Richard just sent through a question. I didn't get the last bit of that. If you could maybe just send it again, please, James Richard. So James Richard has asked if I keep a bird list. James, I do. I really do enjoy birding, and I do keep a list. However, I have not tallied up my list for about 5 months, so I'm not too sure what I'm sitting on at the moment. But again, it's only Southern Africa really. So, and I am not a twitcher in terms of I wouldn't necessarily go to a specific area just to see a handful of birds. If I'm in the area and I have my binoculars, I will go out and go birding and see what I can find. But I do enjoy, I do really enjoy birding, and I do keep a list. Jen B would like to know just how big this giant eagle owl is, or this vereaux eagle owl. Let me give you a quick idea, because it is difficult, as Jen B mentioned. It is not easy to gauge the scale or get a scale for the size of this bird. Let me see if I can just find the exact Let's see if I can find the exact size for you quickly. So about 62 centimeters. So if you, size-wise, 62 centimeters is very large for an owl. So a ruler, a regular ruler, is about 30 centimeters. Can you see that? 30 centimeters. So this owl, if he was sitting on my lap, is probably, about the height of my torso and my head. About 62 centimeters. That's very large for an owl. So very, very big. And they're over 2 kilograms in weight. So heavy bird, big bird. And it's fantastic to be able to see one, especially during the day like this. We've got great light. We can still see it clearly. They have stopped calling, unfortunately. They, I think perhaps they're a little camera shy, but again, look at that beautiful face. His pink eyelids closed, just resting. And in the evenings, these owls will definitely fly out of the camera. Oh, there, I just saw the other one fly off. The other one was not too far from us, and they... Oh, just moved up into that tree over there. How fantastic was that? Just something interesting that I noticed now, as that owl took off, silent, completely silent. And I'm sure most of you have heard that owls are quiet and silent in flight. Their feathers are adapted to make very little sound. So when they are hunting at night, they are able to ambush and hunt from a perch, just like that owl was sitting in or has flown off to. So that they can try and hunt rodents, even some other nocturnal birds that might be walking around or flying around at night. These owls will try and hunt them. What a fantastic sighting. I'm so glad we found them. It's always wonderful if you listen to the bush and you hear certain calls, especially with something that's quite rare like an owl, and you're able to find it. It's not always easy, but if it does work out, it's fantastic and worth it. That was great. Trying to see, it's still sitting there. Oh. I'll just move a little bit forward here quickly. I think we should be able to get the owl again through here. It's just sitting up at the top there. Brian, would you like to see if you can have a look? You can see the shape of it. Can you see that silhouette? Have a look. There we go, in the center of the screen, and there's the owl. Here we go. Fantastic. Wow, so a lot's been going on for us this afternoon. Just before we bumped into the elephant, I was telling you about one of my favorite bush stories, and I'm sure you're all sitting on the edge of your seats wondering what happened with the honey badger and the wild dog. Let me just think where I was. So the honey badger, the one honey badger turned and ran back towards the wild dog that was chasing it and stood its ground. And what it did is it makes like a rattling noise as an aggressive sound. What it did was it started making the sound and running at each wild dog as they try to get close to it. The honey badgers also have a chemical defense, a spray. It's not that different from a skunk. It's just not as pungent as a skunk, but it is quite a strong smell. And predators don't like getting that on them. And this honey badger just turned and ran at these wild dogs one by one for about 3 minutes. And eventually the wild dog couldn't even get close to it. They said, well, they didn't say that. I think they thought this is not worth it. This honey badger means business. We're not gonna be lucky here. And the wild dog turned and ran off. And the honey badger turned and went and met up with its partner that it was with, or the two of them, and then just moved off and disappeared into the thicket. But I've heard of many stories of how tenacious and aggressive honey badgers can be. And that was a perfect example. Just not afraid of them. Decided it's been chased enough, turned around, chased the wild dog off and carried on. It was fantastic. It was really one of my highlights, I think, was seeing that. Look at that beautiful bit of sunlight just catching the eagle owl. So beautiful down in this little drainage line which we are sitting in at the moment. And it's great. And it's great to be able to see this bird. Really, really very happy about that. Well, I think, why don't we leave these owls now? Let them rest, not disturb them anymore. They seem comfortable, but let's leave them. I think, why don't we go get an update from James about those alarm calls, if he had any further luck, or see what else he has for us.
I'd love to give you an update on those alarm calls, everybody, but I've absolutely no idea what caused them. Couldn't find one track of anything, definitely a python, and now we're with some elephants, thank goodness. Fantastic, beautiful elephants. Well, one elephant, there was another one that just walked off behind us. And he's just feeding quietly, giving us a little bit of a head shake to show us how big and strong he is. He's probably an 18-year-old or so, so not confident enough to sort of come and give us a bit of a challenge. But I just, you know, we had a similarly aged elephant yesterday coming off the termite mound there underneath the scotia tree. If you were watching yesterday, you'll know what I mean. If you don't, it doesn't matter. And just slightly older than this one, and obviously curious. You know, was on a mission to go somewhere else, but because we were around, he came sort of this close to us and came a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And I just think bored out of his mind, walking around the place, eating, having the odd snooze and then eating again. And I think these are intelligent animals. So when the opportunity for a little bit of entertainment and interaction with a large green car arises, I think they take it. Especially the bulls. The cows seem far less interested. In fact, it's an interesting sort of sexual dimorphism of that they have of their behavior there, where the cows will, especially when they get to this age, they're into motherhood, they're into looking after the kids, they're into the kind of home life, whereas the young bulls like this fellow, they're just not there yet. They're thinking about entertainment most of the time. And obviously relieving the gas from their cecums, the cecum being the hind gut from which that elephant just flatulated. Wonderful. Did you notice that, David? Mm-hmm. And of course, if you're going to eat vegetables all the time, and you have a whole lot of bacteria helping you digest those vegetables, well, you're going to produce quite a lot of gas. And you know that the cattle kept in the world apparently produce more methane, more greenhouse gas than do all of the vehicles, all the cars. Constantly belching. And the elephant comes out the other end because it's a hind gut fermenter. Now, Carrie, you were watching our TV special, obviously, and you saw Stefan Winterboer pull off a trick the likes of which I never thought I'd see. He squeezed elephant dung into a snail's shell and then drank the sort of water that came from it. And Carrie, you want to know if any animals would do the same thing. Carrie, I don't know any self-respecting human being who would do the same thing. But I do know that animals do absolutely eat. They do certainly eat. They certainly eat elephant dung. Hippo will eat elephant dung. Normally when it's dry though, normally not when it's when it's wet like that. So I don't think they do it for the water. I'm just trying to think. I can't think of any. You know, there are plenty of insects that will very happily, you know, eat the elephant dung and derive moisture from it. But I don't know of any mammal in the world other than Stefan Winterboer who is prepared to drink the fresh water from elephant dung. Ugh. Let me just move out the way. There's a game drive coming up behind us. I think we'll probably say goodbye to that elephant. Let's have one more look at him. So, maybe let's have one more look. Simply because beggars can't be choosers, Davy. Yes, and Byron's put us to shame, of course, on his first drive. Deeply, deeply embarrassing to me. And it's always nice because Kirsten will always give you an encouragement when you say something like that. She'll always say something kind like, "No, don't worry, he hasn't. We all have bad days." In fact, that's not what she said. She said, "Absolutely, he has." I tell you what, you've got to have a very thick skin to live in this place. Of course, when she finds a brown house snake in her bed tonight, well, then we'll see who's laughing. Oh, she says python, of course, because that's the snake we were talking about. That was a really nice little cameo sighting from that elephant. We're heading towards Arathusa, into the setting sun. Kim, that's a nice name. You want to see the sunset? We can certainly, and we're actually in a pretty good place. I'm just going to pull slightly onto Djuma again, and then we'll get a really nice view of where the sun's going down. It's just up ahead, quickly before Byron finds a great plethora of wild dogs killing kudus and elephants and that sort of thing. There's a little road up here, and we'll get an incredible view over the Drakensberg, Kim. I even take a photograph. I haven't taken a photograph of the sun for a long time. That chap who came past us looked like he knew something, so I'm wondering if he's heading towards a spectacular sight. There's the disaster. We're back. Hello everybody, sorry about that, don't know what happened. Of course, if we want Connor to do any work to fix these problems, all we have to do is threaten to withhold his food. Although leaner than a junkyard dog, he does eat an astonishing amount of food. Now there we have the sunset going down, obviously. And the mountains are obscured by haze and cloud in the background. But Kim, there you have a magnificent view of our wonderful African sun. And I know it's sometimes hard to believe, but it's the same sun that shines on you. Well, sometimes. Oh, I'm going to take a picture. It'll be amazing. I'll show it to David. David is he's quite a severe critic of my photography, I must confess to you. So I'm a bit nervous to show it to him, but we'll see what he says. What do you think, David?
Sun's a bit too close to the edge of frame.
Oh, sun's a bit too close to edge of frame. Kim, it's my absolute pleasure. You say thank you. It's my absolute pleasure to show you the sun any day of the week. I think it's beautiful. I'm just going to increase my f-stop quickly. See, I'm using technical terms for David. Oh, there we go. Now he's being kind, unlike Kirsten McLennan Smith, who's been very nasty all afternoon. Okay, let's head to Arathusa. I've been saying that like a stuck record for some time now. This time I really mean it. I've just been asked to link to Byron because he's surely got something incredible. Go and find out what that is.
I'm so glad James showed you the sunset, and I understand he's been getting a little upset with me, so I better watch out and not show you too much more. No, I'm just joking. What we're going to do now is we've moved out of that area where the giant eagle owl was and where the elephant were, and what we would like to check is the hyena den. Now, we're not too far from there. It's usually a nice time of the afternoon, this late afternoon, early evening. We might still get a bit of activity from the cubs that are there at the moment. So let's have a look and see what we can find. I'm hoping they are out. I know James did go past there this morning, and there were adults, and with the youngsters that I think are about 6 months old, but no luck with the really little ones. So hopefully we have a bit of luck this afternoon. But then I'm going to ask you not to tell James. So Aaron has asked, who's all the way in New Zealand, Aaron has asked what made me decide to become a safari guide. Good question. So Aaron, I grew up, so I'm from South Africa, born and bred, and grew up going on safaris with my family. And I was very, very excited about, going to the game reserve and seeing all this wildlife with friends. And as I grew older, I started to get more and more interested, and eventually after school, as any young person, I wasn't too sure what I'd like to do with my life. So I tried a few things, and eventually I thought, let me just have a look at what this guiding and what the bush has to offer. So I got my qualifications quite early on, and then I was very fortunate. I was offered a position at Londolozi Game Reserve. That's, as I said, where I met James, who did, I'd say, more in-depth training from the beginning while I was there. Although I had a bit of knowledge before that, and from the experience that I had, and from then the passion just grew and grew and grew, and I fell in love with it completely. I love being able to interact with people from all over the world, and more importantly, I love being able to show them and showcase what Africa has to offer. And one of the other things I just love is you never know what you're going to see. Everything's different. There's no book that has all the answers in it. You know, like I said, I've been in this industry for about 10 years, 11 years, and I've been guiding permanently for 7 years. And I still, to this day, I still constantly see things that I've never seen before, and that keeps it exciting. It's different. I mean, to be able to do something like that, where you're constantly unsure of what you're going to see, is so rewarding. And like I say, it's fantastic to be able to share that with people and share the experience with everyone. Still heading off towards that hyena den. While we're on our way there, why don't you go and meet up with James? and see what he has. Hopefully he's found something else to show you so that he's not too grumpy by the time we get back to the lodge.
I'll try not to be too grumpy when we get back to the lodge. There's a little kudu. There's a whole heap of kudus around us, a herd of them. Now, we're on Arethusa, as I promised we would be, and there is word that Mvula is not too far from here. He's on Simbambili, which means we can't go there, but I believe he's heading in an easterly direction, which means he'll be heading towards Djuma. So with any luck, we'll get to him, and that will be very joyful indeed. There's also lion around, but also at the same place. Beautiful kudu, this one, looking at us. Look at her. Isn't that lovely? Beautiful. Turn this down, very powerful radio in my ear. I'm just going to get a quick update. Just look at the kudu, enjoy the sight of those wonderful ears. She's very confiding. Peter, do you copy, Peter? Sorry, last station, I can copy you. Won't you just give me the location of the Mvula sighting again, please? Okay, copy, thanks very much. Go ahead. Sorry, double transmission there. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Okay, let's carry on. So Mvula is at One-Eyed Pan, which is just, I have been there by mistake a few times. So we won't go there on purpose. And that means we can't go and see him, but he's very close to the boundary between Djuma and Arethusa, so we might be very lucky there. That was a very nice kudu sighting, David, well done. Very nice colours in the ears there, maroon, very nice maroon colours. Aqua, that's very cool. You say you've abandoned your bird list and you're starting to keep a leopard list, and so far you have 15 leopards, including cubs. I'm going to try and name them. I'm assuming you've got Karula, George and Charlotte. You've probably watched the TV special, so you've got Shadow and Sandile, and I'm going to call Shadow's daughter Zara. You can figure out why I'm calling her Zara. So that's 6. You've probably got Tingana. You've probably got Nkanyeni. The 15 leopards is a lot of leopards. Maybe Nkanyeni's 2 cubs, maybe. Tandi, Mvula, Gajima, maybe. Who else? Oh yes, Quarantine. And maybe Kunyuma, but those are the only 15 that I can think of. Still very impressive. Aqua, tell me if I've got any wrong there. Maybe they're not only safari live leopards. So this is a nice open area, and we've seen Karula in here just before. In fact, I think the last time she mated, which was with Tingana, was around here, and they were on a little buffalo kill that they supped on together, the final meal before Karula became a mother yet again. That was a very pleasant experience. Right, so what we'll do is we'll make our way up towards the northern side of the reserve. If Mvula does decide to move, he may well come east. We might be lucky. We might not, who knows. Don't know where Shadow is, had no updates on her, have not seen her tracks. She was probably most likely south of the boundary, on a little place called Hofmann's, which people very seldom go to. Oh, also, good question. James Richard, you say, where's Tingana? We had tracks of a big male leopard going from the Djuma Dam Can the other day, out, down, past our old hyena den on Philemon's Cut Line, and then out of, into the south, into the sort of, into Hoffman's, around about where we were watching the sunset earlier. That was about 2 days ago. So I think he's probably to the south of us as well. He could come north at any stage. Let's quickly go and look here at Red Dam, which is a rather romantic name for a quarry. Didn't you say, David? Very. Ah, and Whitney and Rocky Knight, you say, did I mention the Anderson male? I did not, so he could be. Although we've only ever seen him once live, I think. I think we've only ever seen him once live. You could also have had the late Kwatile. She also could have made an appearance on your list. That would be 17. I do so. Only safari live leopards, so I think we probably had the list there. Gee whiz, I think that's really impressive, Aqua. I suppose you have been watching for a while. Still. I hope we'll be able to add to that list. I'm not sure with whom we'll add to it, but Anderson, I suppose, would be a good addition. As would a bit more time with Shadow and her little one. We could also have seen Shiluva. Yes, that's right. And Sakani as well. Thank you, Judy H. That's 19 possibles. So you've got 4 more to go so far. Gonuma, by the way, who's now almost, well, he's about 3.5. Quarantine's brother. He seems to have headed off towards Mala Mala and Londolozi, where he's establishing himself. And he's very young to be establishing himself. There, everybody, is a delightful sighting of a terrified grey heron. That is very unkind of it to fly away like that, I must confess. It makes me very cross indeed. You got him? Yep. Brilliant, David. Why is he behind a tree? Let me move. Right. We're still going to head north. Just check the water here and we'll turn around and carry on up that way just in case Mbula gets going. There goes the heron flying overhead. Off he goes. We have a question from someone called Chunky Maggot. Oh, not Nugget. Oh, that's much better. So not chunky fly larvae. No, nugget, as in pleasant thing. Okay, right. Chunky nugget. Very good. Very good. You want to know what the largest bird we get here is? Chunky nugget. The largest bird possible to get here is an ostrich, of course. We get them on Cheetah Plains, the world's largest bird. I'm not sure that you were thinking of that sort of bird. You're probably thinking more along the lines of a standard issue bird. The next biggest would probably be a Cape vulture, which can weigh in at up to 15 kilograms, which is about, well, 40 pounds or so. So that's an enormous bird. And then if you're really lucky, you might see a Cory bustard, which can grow up to 19 kilograms, which I've never seen them here. But they, in theory, they would occur here. So it looks like an enormous sort of ground-dwelling bird, but they can fly. So those would be the 2 biggest. And the wingspan of the Cape vulture, I guess, would be about 2.5 meters. Let me check that for you while we're driving, because it really is. I mean, 2.5 meters is about 7.5 feet. Let me just quickly check. V for vulture. Search. Vulture. Don't do this while you're driving in town, everybody. Okay, vulture. Faces alike. It doesn't say, you know. Yes, it does. Wingspan 2.5 meters, 2.5 meters. So that's really impressive. Almost 8 feet. Let's see what else we can find down here. David, are you getting cold? David is putting on his scarf, everyone. It is amazing how the temperature drops as soon as the sun pops below the horizon. My luck continues to shower down on us all. Yes. Amy, a very nice question from you. You say you haven't seen any giraffe lately, nor have I, clearly. And you say, do they migrate for the winter? No, they don't, Amy. They don't migrate. But they do move. They're nomadic. They're not. They hardly have a home range. They definitely are not territorial at all. There was some seen on Buffelshoek today, around one of the water holes, but they don't migrate. They will move from area to area, and one of the reasons for that is that they choose often acacia trees like this big knobthorn that we're driving past now, and because of that, the knobthorns they talk to each other. They produce a pheromone, and that pheromone, well, the first thing they do if they're bitten and if they're eaten from is increase the amount of tannin in the leaves. Then they produce a pheromone which other trees of the same species will pick up on. And so even if they're not being attacked, they too will increase the pheromone, the tannin levels in the leaves. So what happens is that you eventually have an area where all the leaves are almost inedible as the giraffe has moved around. And that's why you'll never see a giraffe going from tree to tree. And I suspect that their nomadic nature is brought on. Sorry, just listening there to an update on Mvula. And so you can imagine that their nomadic nature is probably driven by the fact that they make the trees in an area completely unpalatable. They must go somewhere else, eat for a while, and then they'll come back into an area. I think that's probably what happens. Trying to get an idea of what's going on the radio. So many radios, 47 of them in one car. Not easy. There we go. Doesn't look like Mvula's moving yet, I'm afraid. Let's not fall into that hole there, David. That would be very unpleasant. I like how I handed responsibility for that over to you, despite the fact that you have absolutely no power to control it or not. Over a hill. On the other side. Must be an animal here somewhere. Right, Byron is about to arrive at the hyena den. As much as I'll be jealous if there are any hyenas there, I hope for your sake that there are. Go and have a look.
James, you are correct. We have got hyena here. What a fantastic evening, or early evening. Looks like just 2 adults here at the moment. I've had a look at the den, and I don't see any sign of the young cubs. But let's hang around here a little bit, and maybe we get lucky, and if the mother does return to the den, we may have some young ones arriving here. Another hyena is just walking into the group. They are amazing animals. Just have a look at the size of that neck and the head. They're very, very interesting predators. Very powerful jaws. Oh dear. I see, it looks like two of the young ones, the 6-month-old cubs. Yeah, there we go. They're just arriving. There they go. Fantastic. They're amazing animals. There's always interaction between the hyena. At least we're getting some movement from these adults now. Maybe we're lucky and they go towards the den and we get a sight of the young ones. Just wait and see if they do head towards there. Then I'll try and move a little bit closer. That one is moving off in that direction now. A lot of sniffing and licking and cleaning between these animals, and the reason for that is all of that maintains the bond between the clan. Oh, there's a big yawn from this one that just got up on the left, and a stretch. So that sniffing, cleaning, a lot of the predators do it with the young. They maintain the bond. They get used to each other's scent. I'm going to move. I can just hear the other adult making a bit of a noise at the den. Let's go have a look there quickly. Just do not want to drive in this hyena dung on the left here. That will not smell very pleasant. Excuse me, sorry. There we go. The head's right in the den there. So let's see if we're lucky. Okay. Oh, listen to that. Listen to the vocalizations coming from. Very interesting behavior, and I am guessing that they are possibly calling the cubs. And let's see if they do come out or if there's any sign of them. Nothing yet, just the adults at the entrance. See again, sniffing and smelling each other even within the adults. The other younger ones are wandering around, and well, there's a lot of hyena here. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least 8 hyena wandering around here at the moment. It's a really nice clan size. Give me 2 seconds. I just want to try and move a little bit further for us. Let's keep watching that den. There we go. Okay. This is a good spot. If those cubs do stick their heads out, we should get a view of them. Keeping a little bit quieter, just also I'd like you to hear these vocalizations coming from the hyena. Very interesting. I have read that they've got up to 16 different calls. Some people have said that they have recorded more. So it'd be interesting, and maybe one of our viewers could try and look it up and let me know what a general consensus is on the amount of calls that a hyena has. This is great. So I actually arrived in this area last night and heard quite a few hyena calling. Such an amazing sound. So JJ has asked a question about the clan size and what the biggest clan is that I have seen. And JJ, to be honest, with the amount of hyena walking around, I think this is possibly it that I have seen. I have seen many hyena den in my days of guiding in different areas, Generally, the most I've seen are between 6 and 8. So this one, with these 8 that I've seen walking around here, plus the cubs in the den, this is probably one of the largest that I have seen. But I have heard of clans numbers much more than that. Listen to that sound. I hope you can all hear that. It's not a full call. They do that whooping sound when they do territorial calling or general communication amongst the clans. And they've also got that laugh, and in some areas people refer to them as the laughing hyena. But this is the spotted hyena. The laughing hyena is more an excited call when they are around a kill or a carcass. And they get very excited and they cackle. It's a very strange sound. My voice is terrible, so I can't even hazard a try at the call. But the whooping sound, that's a wonderful sound. It's that whoop, whoop. Very, very interesting sound. Amazing, amazing call. And what they do is, as they're doing this call, they'll call facing down. So what it does is it causes the sound to bounce off the ground and hopefully travel further and carry that sound a little bit further. You would think just by lifting the head up into the air that it would travel further, but apparently the sound resonating off the ground gives it further distance and a little bit more volume. I think a lot of these adults may start moving off now, possibly going to scavenge for the evening. Those youngsters might follow the adults for a little bit, but may just hang around in this area. They're a lot more comfortable now at that age, moving a little bit further away from the den. The cubs will still stay in the den. They're still very young from my understanding, still completely black, and as they get a bit older, their coat starts to change, like those youngsters that we just saw. Fascinating. Also very, very well camouflaged. So Mia from Illinois has asked a question about whether the clan will split if the numbers get too big. It's an interesting question, Mia, and the answer is yes. Clans can split at times. Usually with the hyena, depending on the clan size, but within a hyena clan, it's a matriarchal society. I think James touched on it this morning too, but for those of you who missed that, matriarchal society is when a clan or herd of animals is run by the female, by a dominant female. So hyena are one of the animals that is very strong, and that is the case. Females control the clan. The females are much larger and more dominant than the males. So the males do tend to keep their distance away from a clan. Within a society like this and within a clan, the queen female or the dominant female, she will allow a beta female or another female within the clan to give birth to cubs if the clan is quite large. Generally, though, it is the alpha female that gives birth, but she will allow it, and it does occur where you might have 2 or 3 females giving birth at different stages to different cubs, and between 1 and 3 cubs generally. Then it can occur where the clan reaches a stage where it becomes too big, and perhaps there's a little bit of tension between the adult females, and they may split. And usually it's based on food availability, water, or if they change dens. They do change dens quite regularly, and they may have a few dens that they use. I know last time I was here, which was last year, there was another den that we saw, and I'm assuming that that den could still be used. But in that case, yes, they can split and they can form smaller clans, which are maybe a little bit easier to manage. So I hope that answers your question, Mia. Thank you. See how these youngsters are very, very curious. Often come wandering up to the vehicles, come sniffing around. This little one just to the side of that tree. It's a great time of the day now, getting a lot of activity from them. We're not going to stay at the den for too long because as we start losing light, we also want to be sensitive. You know, they have got young cubs, so we don't want to disturb them too much if they are around or wandering around while the cubs are in there alone. But there's still a lot of activity. There's all these youngsters lying around, walking about. Another adult still just moved behind the termite mound, and I could still see one or two adults moving just off in through the thicket. So they are still around. I understand one of the viewers has seen from one of our cameras set up at the waterhole that there is a hyena drinking at the Djuma waterhole, which is great. Hyena do drink water quite regularly. I've often seen them wandering into a specific area to go and look for water. And what they often do is they go and put their whole body in the waterhole and lie in the water for a short period of time while they are drinking, and then continue on their way again, even in winter, which is quite strange behavior. But they're not afraid of water, from what I've seen. It's often little pans and wallows that they do that in. The little one just relaxing there. I'm sure with all these hyena around, we'll probably have quite a bit of vocalization again this evening. May hear them from the camp. It's been a wonderful afternoon for us. There's been so much activity. So Elizabeth has just asked a question about the clans and the splitting of clans, and whether or not those clans will tolerate each other, or if they will inevitably become aggressive towards each other. So hyena are territorial, Elizabeth, and generally clans will stick to certain areas. As I mentioned, they may have a number of den sites around that they use, and they'll stick to one for a certain period of time. And then you can imagine with the cubs being inside there, with the adults in and out, you get a build-up of fleas and so on, and those hyena will then move and try another den. But they are territorial, and those dens will be in a certain territory. I have seen incredible rivalry between clans and fights break out between clans. Again, it's a dominance thing, so if there's perhaps a female challenging for dominance or trying to drive off another female, then they can gang up on each other and fight. And these clan fights or clan wars can be brutal at times. A hyena, watching them like this now, they don't look too aggressive. But you need to remember how powerful those jaws are. These hyena have the most powerful jaws out of any predator in this area. They've got incredible crushing power. And I've seen hyena attack and bite and tear at each other. It's not pleasant to see, but again, it is part of nature. But yes, there's definitely rivalry between clans. In terms of clans that have split up from one clan, I do still think that once they have split and moved into different territories, if they do meet up, there is still competition with each other. And that, I think that, that rivalry will still be quite strong within those clans. But again, that you know, there's no set rule or answer to that. But thank you, Elizabeth. That's an interesting question, and is something that, you know, in my experience, what I've seen, that's the behavior I've noticed, but it's not always a set rule. It's now getting a bit dark, so we're going to leave these hyena, let them rest for the evening. Those adults have moved off, probably going to scavenge. Why don't we go and see what James is up to, get an update from him, and I think he might have something big and grey waiting for you.
Hello everybody. Oh, sorry, it was just so long. There's an elephant, a very large one over there. Now we're still waiting kind of where you left us actually, and the reason we stopped here was because of these elephants. That big bull was sort of coming through the bushes out, but also because there was a giraffe around here, and we had that question about where the giraffes are. Let's just wait for I think he may have wandered off through there, unfortunately, but there is a giraffe around here. So Amy, there are giraffe around, or there was a giraffe around. It has gone. All right, let's go forward. We're not going to shine a light on any of the animals here. Oh. Sure. I had to start the car. It played a funny joke on me and didn't start. Ha ha ha. Now the giraffe was here not a minute ago. Oh, that's a pity. Anyway, it was just one fella on his own. Oh, there he is. He's up ahead there. We'll leave the ellies because it's just getting a bit dark for them. There we go. You see him, Dave? Ah, there. It won't shine on him. And Mvula, I'm afraid, has stayed in exactly the same place that he is. They've got Mvula there. They've got a herd of buffalo. They've also got 2 lionesses in the same position. Oh, look at his horn. Oh, bad luck. He now knows he's on TV, so he's a bit embarrassed about his mangled right horn. And listen to that, the sound of summer. You can hear some cicadas calling. Utterly bizarre for this time of the year. But it has been an unusually warm winter, you know. Let me just go a little closer. Just go around the corner here. He might be kind enough to stop and let us look at him. Hello. Shame. Look at that horn. That would definitely be from fighting, everyone. It's a good lesson to those who are considering fighting over ladies, but it does look awful, doesn't it? Got a nasty wound. Never. If it falls off, it won't grow back again. And I believe you have seen him before. I don't think I've seen him before. Ugh, that's quite nasty. I don't think it's that new, though. Might be. Now watch him. He's looking at the elephants, I think, behind us. Now, I was just reading about giraffe while you were away, actually. I had it's a long time to have a bit of a read up about giraffe. And I found out that what they do, Amy, you were asking about them, they don't eat. Apparently they eat sort of half the amount that a browser or grazer of similar size would eat normally. And that's because they're quite selective about which shoots they eat. They'll eat sort of fresh twigs as well as just the leaves. and they have such an incredibly efficient digestive system that they will eat half the amount of equivalent animals or animals of equivalent size, which I think is quite amazing. And so they don't have to, like the elephants, sort of devour everything in their wake. I know your picture is quite red because I think of the, we're probably pushing the colour a bit, but the giraffe's colour matches so beautifully the golden browns of the winter vegetation, which is now rustling in an evening breeze. I've just heard that Mvula actually has a kill, so he's not going to come anywhere near us. But at least we came up here and saw a giraffe, some elephants, had a snooze, read about giraffes. And I'm so glad all the hyenas were at the den. I really think that's marvellous. So I was a little worried when we went there today that maybe only, a few of them had come across. It seems like everyone is there. It's suddenly got quite dark, hasn't it, David? I suppose that does happen at night time. All right, we're going to leave this fellow. It is getting a bit dark and I don't want to shine a light on him. Maybe one last view. Yeah, this new camera is pretty good with this stuff. So that's much brighter than the picture I can see of him. Donna, this is a question I've actually thought of quite often myself. You say, do I think that giraffe get headaches or horn aches? Yes, I imagine they do, and I imagine that the bashing of heads and the clashing of heads that they have with other bull giraffe almost unquestionably must give them a headache. I mean, to be bashing your brain around inside the brain case like that and expect not to have a headache, I think it would be strange. So, yeah, I'm sure they get headaches. I wonder if they also, I know I get a headache if I haven't drunk enough water. I wonder if they get those sorts of headaches. They certainly don't have to drink water, giraffe. They've got really efficient with that sort of thing. Oh, look at those wonderful eyebrows. Eyelashes, sorry. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, I think that's so cool. Janet, nice one from you. Can giraffe jump? Okay, well, now, strictly, I don't know that you'd ever find them in the show jumping ring, for example, but strictly speaking, yes, they can jump. Remember that an animal that can't jump the only mammal that can't jump is he's now ruminating, is an elephant. And if you can run, okay, now you remember running. I don't know if you still run, maybe you still run. And if you run, you leave the ground, right? There's always a time at which or only one foot is in contact with the ground, then it isn't, and then you're sort of flying through the air, and then the next foot is in contact with the ground. That's jumping, you're basically jumping. And an elephant can't do that, it power walks, it must keep some of its legs on the ground all the time. A giraffe canters in much the same way that a horse does, and so it has at some stage got all 4 feet off the ground, and that would be the strict definition of running and not running. So yes, absolutely, at least of running. So absolutely they can jump, yes. Now, I don't think they're particularly good jumpers, but they can certainly jump. The best jumpers out here, I think, are the nyala and the kudu. They really are quite fantastic at it. Right, let us shed some light on the situation here. Mia, nice one from you about whether or not I think this giraffe will fight with that broken horn. Mia, I think that it will. I think that the overwhelming desire to mate will preclude any kind of pain that he has in that horn once it's healed. I think maybe if it's very tender, then he wouldn't. But I think most of the time, yes, absolutely, he would fight, and I don't think he'd think twice about it. Animals don't tend to worry too much about the pain that they go through. They're not like us. Very, very brave when it comes to that sort of thing. We're so close to where Mvula is, but I'm afraid he is on his kill. Let's head across to Byron. I've no doubt he's got 4 leopards and 10 owls and possibly a civet or 2 to show you.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no leopards, owls or civets. We are cruising around now using the spotlight, and my spotlight skills aren't too bad, but I definitely need more practice with the driving and the spotlighting and speaking to all of you. It's a big change for me. I hope you didn't catch James napping when you went back to him. And hopefully he is a little bit more relaxed after being quite intrigued about everything that we were seeing this afternoon. It's a very cool evening. The temperature's dropped quite a bit now. And it does generally affect animal movement, especially still a bit of cloud cover, cool weather. But let's hope we find something wandering around in the evening. I know last night Brent was quite lucky and he found a civet. James Richard has just asked a question about tracking, and he would like to know if I enjoy tracking and what animal I enjoy tracking. So, James Richard, I think tracking is wonderful. It really is. It's a great experience. It's fantastic to do. You're walking through the bush. You don't really know when you're going to bump into the animal that you are tracking, and especially with the more experience you have. I think telling whether or not the tracks are very fresh just helps you be more alert and aware of where the animal is. In terms of my favorite animal to track, I'm trying to think. It's always exciting for me to track a leopard. I think because a leopard is so elusive, and there's a beautiful nightjar that just took off from the road. A bit difficult to see. Let's see. Often they land again. No, it's moved off. Oh, there it is. I don't want to shine the spotlight on it too long, but let's see if you can have a look at that little nightjar. Can you see it there? Look at that camouflage. There it goes. Fantastic. A beautiful nightjar, nocturnal bird. And what it's doing is it's flying onto the road. Hopefully the road has kept a bit of the warmth from the day. You might have insects coming onto the road in the evenings or sitting on the road. Those nightjars will be looking for those insects and trying to catch them. They've got very big eyes, especially because they are nocturnal, so they can see a lot better. I didn't want to shine on it too long, and I shined just off of it. Because of those big eyes, their eyes are quite sensitive, but you saw it flew away quite easily. But lovely to see it. You could see that camouflage. Incredible. James Richard, sorry, getting back to your question about the animals I like to track. So as I was saying, leopard, definitely a leopard, because they are so elusive, they're very clever, and if they don't want to be seen, you're not going to see them. It doesn't matter how much tracking you do. I mean, I've tracked leopards for quite a few years in different areas, and occasionally you get lucky and you'll track for 20 minutes and find a leopard. Other times you can track for 3 hours and not find anything. So it all depends. But I would say that's one of my favorites and definitely very exciting. Gets the adrenaline going a little bit. Quite a few little bats flying around, I see. There's one. Trying to keep an eye on the road at the same time, but again, with a bit of guiding experience, you're a bit more comfortable with animals and hopefully staying on the road. But I'm sure Brian will give me a heads up from behind if I drift off the road. Thank you, Brian. That will definitely alert me. Oh, we've had such a wonderful afternoon, starting with those waterbuck and the hippo and the impala, and then that herd of elephant. That was definitely a highlight for me this afternoon, spending time with those elephants so close to us, completely comfortable and happy with us being with them. That was fantastic. And seeing that little calf go and rest for a short while, that is very unusual and great to see, and just shows you how comfortable they were with us being around them. And then, of course, that giant eagle owl was a really great sighting, not something you see every day, especially during the afternoon like that. They can hide very well. As you saw, they disappeared into the canopy of those trees. Unless you hear them calling, you're not necessarily going to see them very easily. I'm going to continue looking for a civet, just so I've got something to tell James later on. Why don't you go and get an update from him and see what he's up to?
I'm trying a new spotlight technique, everybody. This is called the helicopter. It's about as effective as my normal spotlighting technique. What do you think? You think it's good? Some days you find yourself so very amusing. I think I've spotted something, believe it or not. The final control has gone radio silent, so they clearly think I'm not vaguely amusing there. If you look at the top of this bushel, David, not there, that one, no, that one, yeah, that little white patch. Won't you bang in the zoom there? I think that's one of those rain locusts. It is. Ha ha! Look at that. No, it's not a leaf. It's a leaf. Well done, everybody. It's a leaf. I was about to be so proud of myself that I'd spotted a rain locust with the helicopter spotlight technique, and I found a leaf. Well done, James. What a sterling effort you've made this evening. Fantastic. A for effort. Well, that's very kind. That's the first kind thing Kirsten's ever said in her life, I think. Anyway, let's head down the road and see if we can't find a bushbaby. Oh, she said it wasn't kindness, it was pity. That makes me feel so much better. Oh, there is something quite interesting, actually. See that, Dave? Growing in the top of the tree is another tree. And I suspect quite strongly that's a fig tree, everybody. The beginnings of a fig tree growing in a dead knobthorn. So although one might lament the death of this great giant of the bush, it is providing a home for another tree. That's fantastic. So that's a dead knobthorn, and I think in it a fig is growing. Very nice. I always find finding trees very easy, you see, because they don't move. Therefore makes them far easier to find. Like that leaf, for example. Now we're going towards Sandy Patch, and perhaps in Sandy Patch we will find those jackals. Oh! Byron has found something else to show you.
Have a look at this, everyone. A scrub hare. Look at that hiding, just kind of moving very quietly through the long grass. They are nocturnal too, and that's why they come out in early evening, foraging for food. Beautiful little scrub hare. They're chewing on little grass seeds that it can find in this clearing. So well hidden. So often what happens Oh, hang on. James has just found something that that I think is very interesting, and I'm very jealous. Why don't you quickly go have a look and see what he's got there?
The helicopter technique is bearing fruit, everybody. I found a bush baby for you, a lesser bush baby, and it's just huddling about there in the tree. Now, we had a question today from one of the kids, extremely astute kids they were, being from Johannesburg, and they said, why do elephants not have fur? Now, you may ask yourself the question, why is this great imbecile talking about this when we're looking at a bush baby? Well, if Byron doesn't find something else in the next 2 minutes, I'll tell you. The good reason, of course, is that a bush baby is exactly the opposite end of the scale from an elephant. It is tiny, only about, without the tail, probably only about 8 inches long, so very small, and they're active at night, which means that they're active during the coldest parts of the day, and that means that it's difficult for them to stay warm. They're very small, so they lose heat at an incredible speed. So if you heat up a ball that is the size of an elephant, or a ball made of the same thing that's the size of a bush baby, the ball that's the size of the bush baby will cool down almost infinitely faster than the ball the size of the elephant. And that means that if you're an elephant, you don't need to have insulation all over you. But if you're a bush baby, you've got to have thick, beautiful fur like that. And you've also got to be very conservational about your energy efforts. And so during the day, they go into this torpor, which is a kind of a sleep state. I know some people who go into torpor, but that's normally not a sleep state. And they go into a sort of tree well, they don't go into a sort of tree, they go into a tree hole, and there they drop their metabolism right down. And I think it's amazing. So you can catch them. If you find a bush baby nest in the middle of the day and they're all asleep, they can't move. If you pick them up, they can't move. So they've almost got to kind of wind up and get their metabolism going and allow their body temperature to come up to normal again. And then they start that incredible gummy bear jumping about the place. This one is hoping for some tree gum. He's sitting in a knobthorn tree. Not sure he's going to get any in that particular knobthorn. It looks very dead to me. Still, maybe he's like me, hopeful for success. Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much to you wonderful viewers who've decided to start keeping a leaf list on the basis of the fact that we spotted that leaf hanging in a tree. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll start a list of leaves not belonging to the trees in which they are hanging. That's a very good idea. I've no doubt that safaris taken looking for leaves that are in trees in which they did not grow will catch on and become the next viral sensation. Either that, or they'll be used by anaesthetists in order to put people to sleep before open heart surgery. This bush baby looks like it's been pinned to its perch. I think it just doesn't like the breeze blowing behind it. And I think there's another one actually just behind it. You can just see a bit of movement there. Very nice. Tiny little things. They really are. I mean, it looks big in the screen, and we've got the super zoom on it. But they really are tiny. 6 to 8 inches long. And so you can imagine how quickly they must lose heat. Now it's just starting to kind of get active. They get active very slowly. He's having a bit of a yawn. See that? He's yawning. He's only just got up. All right, I think let's leave him there. Let's head down towards where the jackals might be. We're heading down towards Sandy Patch, which is where the jackals, the side-striped jackals that we've been seeing, they might be there. Although Byron will probably find them somewhere where he is. But we are going to link to Byron, but Byron has got nothing for once.
James is correct. I don't have anything for you at the moment. The scrub hare has moved off, but I'm so happy that he was able to show you a bush baby. That's fantastic. They're tiny animals that move so quickly. To be able to catch a glimpse of one is really, really lucky. I understand he also found you a few leaves. No, I think he's just showing off. We're scanning the clearings a little bit. There's a bit of general game. So what happens in the evenings, you get most animals like to come up onto the clearing for safety. It's open, it's nice and clear for them to keep a lookout for any predators. So we've seen some impala, zebra, a buffalo, all heading up onto this clearing. We don't want to shine on them in the evenings. Their eyes are quite sensitive to the spotlights. So we generally try just give them their space, let them rest for the evening, and not disturb them too much with the spotlight. But it's very interesting how the animals know where to go for safety. It's incredible how these animals just have this instinct that they know up on these clearings they'll be able to stick closer together and warn each other. A lot of the time the animals will warn each other if there is any danger. As I mentioned earlier, it's quite a nice, cool evening. Temperature has dropped quite a bit, but it's not too cold. It's still very pleasant. I'm curious to see if this cloud cover disappears tomorrow morning, and it looks like the cloud cover has disappeared actually, but tomorrow morning could be a lot cooler. When there's little cloud cover, the temperature does drop quite a bit. The cloud insulates a bit of the heat from the day and the warmth, so it's much warmer when there is cloud cover. Some impala running through the thicket over there. Come on, let's find a civet. Fortunately, I have a whole week with you, so we will be doing a lot more evening drives. Thank you so much for a wonderful afternoon. I hope you have all enjoyed it. Thank you to Brian that has been with me and helping me get around Djuma and the thumb. There may be a time where I get lost in the next few days. That happens, all part of the fun. Thank you to the ladies in FC, and thank you for all the questions this afternoon. It's been fantastic chatting to all of you, and I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll catch you tomorrow morning on the morning safari, on the sunrise safari. Have a wonderful evening. Why don't you go back to James and have him say good night and goodbye.
I promised everybody, I just saw a civet. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. It just went in here. And Dave reckons it's the same one that you saw last night with Brent. There. No, that's an impala. I promise you it went in here. A civetta, African civet, not here anymore. Unless that was it on top of the mound there. No, I'm afraid not. But it was here, I promise. No one believes me, do they, David? You believe me. You saw it. Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad you saw it, because Kirsten definitely doesn't believe us. Oh well, maybe we'll be lucky tomorrow morning. Not with civets, but mind seeing a cat. I'm not sure what they look like anymore. I've no doubt Byron will find many cats tomorrow. All right, everybody, I think we're going to call it quits for the night. A big thanks to you. See you in the morning. some of those spiders that you've just been seeing with